And a very warm welcome to you, and especially to the young boys and girls of Allenton Elementary in the United States. Welcome to this Safari Live, coming to you from the Masai Mara. My name is Steve Falconbridge, and I'm joined by Archie on camera, and we really do apologize about any technical issues we might have had a moment ago before, but we are out in the wilderness and we are here to explore and to have a wonderful afternoon. So please, boys and girls, send your questions through via your teacher. Let us know what you'd like to see. We are in Kenya. We are in one of the largest savanna ecosystems in the world. Let us know what you have to say. Send us your requests. We have got a bird in the long grass which has just disappeared, but I think Archie might be able to pan on him again. And I know it's a boy because he was making a wonderful little sound just before. Can you get him, Archie? There he is. There we go. Can you see that? It is called a black-bellied bustard, and it makes a fantastic sound. If he doesn't do it again, I'll play it for you. If you just have a little listen on my phone, it's going to come through the microphone, and it might actually encourage him to do one as well. So let's have a listen. Isn't that the strangest sound you've ever heard? It's to attract the females. As you can see, the grass is extremely long, and here's a very camouflaged bird. It's very difficult to see. And in this very long open grassland, you can see it as far as the eye can stretch. It's just grass, grass, and more grass. This is a wonderful ecosystem, and we are out here this afternoon to explore, and we are hoping to maybe find some lions. We might see some buffalo. I'm sure we'll find an elephant or two and some other wonderful animals. So please send through your questions and comments, young ones. Let us know what you'd like to see. In the meantime, we're going to start driving. It is 5 o'clock in Kenya at the moment. It's a wonderful time of day. This is the preferred time to go on game drive, and I believe Allenton Elementary, it's your first safari with us on Safari Live, which is wonderful stuff. I'd love to know what you already know about safaris. I'm sure you've got some interesting things you already know from the past. Good afternoon. But we are out here to talk about all those interesting things as well. We have lots of grass. We have a huge, wide open savanna, as I said. If you're not sure what a savanna is grass with trees. So that is essentially what it is, and we have two different types. And my friend down in the southern hemisphere, or we're in the southern hemisphere, but in South Africa, is very wet and rainy. So he is standing inside a tent. We're going to James.
Well, I'm not standing inside the tent, I'm sitting inside the tent, everybody. Can you hear the frogs? Isn't that wonderful? My name is James Hendry, and on camera today is Fergus, and it's marvellous to have you youngsters with us on safari. Now, we will probably go out a little bit later if it stops raining, but it has been raining for the last hour or so, very hard, and so we've come into this lovely tent, and there's some amazing things, but you will not believe what I've just found in here. Please send us your questions, remember, through your teacher. I was sitting on this chair, and I haven't been sitting on this chair for some time, and you won't believe what I saw when I turned it over. Oh, look at that. That, everybody, is called a daddy long-legs spider. Isn't it amazing? And it was living underneath where I was sitting. And that's because we live in a wild area here. And in these wild areas, well, wild creatures make their homes everywhere they can. Now, I've also got a very special thing in here called a microscope. And we're going to have a look at the spider now through the microscope. Isn't that a magnificent picture? And it is totally harmless to human beings, so it wouldn't have harmed me. Even if it had bitten me on the bottom, it still wouldn't have given me any kind of poison. All right, let's try and put this up on the table and see if we can have an even closer look with the microscope. So this is my little microscope over here, and it gets an even closer picture than the one that Fergus just got you. Now, let's see. Let's see what we can see here. Ooh! Look at the top of the spider, everybody. Can you count his legs together? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 legs on this amazing spider. Look at him. See how close we can get. It's probably a she, actually. It's probably a mother. And you might even find that she's got some eggs around here somewhere. Although normally the daddy long-legged spider carries the eggs in her mouth. Wow, that is amazing. Isn't that an astonishing thing to find under your chair? I think that's amazing. Oh, now, you all want to know what kind of animals we'll see today. Well, the thing about being in a wilderness area like this is that it's not like the zoo. So we don't know what kind of animals we're going to see. When we go out into the bush, we have no idea what we're going to find. A few of my other friends have gone out, Tristan and Noel, and I know that they saw some cats this morning. They saw some lions and some leopards, so they'll probably go to where those animals were, and they'll see them if they can find them again. But we've got elephants here, we've got impalas and buffalo and baboons and monkeys and badgers and about 300 different kinds of birds and thousands of different kinds of insects and probably about 500 different kinds of trees. So you could see all of those special things today on your safari. Let's go quickly outside and have a look at this cloud. This big storm cloud. It's been so very dry here where we live in South Africa in the Kruger National Park, and you can see we're very happy to have had all of the rain that we've had so far today. We're hoping for some more, of course, and the frogs are hoping for it even more than I am. You heard them singing with happiness when we started our drive. Isn't that amazing, seeing those clouds flying across the sky because the wind up there is so very strong? This is very exciting. Okay, now I told you we didn't know what we were going to find out here. My friend Tristan's gone out. I said he was going to look for a leopard, but he's actually found something that looks just like this.
Well, I have found something very interesting, and it's not Noelle because she's busy driving past at the moment, and you'll meet her a little bit later. But what I have found, and I will get into now, is a stick insect. But before we get to that, my name is Tristan, and on camera today I've got Senzo. There's his 3 fingers as per normal, and this is a live interactive safari, kids, so send lots of questions to your teacher and we'll try and answer as many as possible. So what I've got here is what we call a stick insect. So I'm going to try and let it go onto the dashboard. You can see it's going to walk off of my hand, and isn't that amazing? Look at it. You see it's got very long legs that it uses to try and walk, and it does it by bobbing up and down, trying to kind of see where it's going. Now the reason why we call it a stick insect is because it camouflages very well. Now if you don't know what camouflage means for an animal to hide in its natural environment. So that animal hides by looking like a stick. Isn't that very, very clever? And so any other predator that comes past can't see it because it sits on the stick and it puts its legs very close like this, and then it lies with its head down and it stays very still until the night time when it starts to walk. So it's a very clever little insect, but I don't think it wants to be friends with me, so I'm not going to grab it again. We'll leave it to go off the vehicle, and it will probably go down into the grass at some point. Right, now let's get going because we've got lots to try and do and see. So hopefully we'll find something very nice to show all of you. Now, Teresa, you want to know why a spider has 8 legs? Well, Teresa, that's a very good question. I don't actually know why it would need all 8. It's possibly to do with the way that it sort of survives. I'm not 100% sure. Maybe James knows the answer to this, but I certainly don't know why they would need all 8. You might find that they would do just fine with 4 or 6, or maybe they would need 10. Who knows? But they've got 8 and they seem to work. It allows them to go over branches and leaves and grass and hold on to those things, as well as to go on their web. So they're able to get onto the web and then go around and through it. So maybe it's something to do with that, but I honestly don't know why they would need all 8. Like I say, maybe one of my other fellow presenters, Steve or James, might know why a spider needs all 8 legs all the time. Interestingly though, some spiders do actually unfortunately lose their legs from time to time. As things happen, you'll find that they go somewhere and maybe a predator tries to attack them and they lose a set of legs, but they'll still be able to survive, which is not too bad. Right, well, I'm going to just try and go and find that leopard like James mentioned. While I do that, let's send you back all the way to Kenya and Steve and see what he's up to.
Little boys and girls, look what we have found. We have found a Pumbaa. Those of you who've seen The Lion King will know all about Pumbaa, I'm sure. And Pumbaa is actually the Swahili word for warthog. And there you have a beautiful specimen there, busy feeding on the grass. He's chomping and chomping away. He's very happy. His tail is wagging. And he's on his own as far as warthogs go, but there's a whole lot of other animals around him there. Behind you can see a couple waterbuck lying down on the grass. There's on the left, there's a cattle egret, which is looking for insects that the warthog chases away. There's the cattle egret. It's feeding on all sorts of insects, like that stick insect that Tristan was just showing you. What happens is when the animals are walking, like the warthog, they disturb the insects that are very camouflaged, hiding on the grass. And that bird is able to then grab those insects because when they move, obviously they're more visible to the bird. So it's quite a nice strategy they have when they follow other animals, and you see them all the time doing that. And there at the back is a waterbuck. She is sitting down and busy chewing. There's also feeds on lots of grass. And there's some more waterbuck there. Very nice green patch. There's some tall trees in the background which show that the river is not far away. Just about 100 meters or 50 meters behind the trees is the big Mara River. You are learning about the habitats the animals live in, and this right here would be one of the habitats. That big tree canopy that is running along the side of the river, so that is one habitat. And then if you come to the front where the warthog is, it's a different habitat. And as you come further away, there's another habitat. You can have lots of habitats next to each other. Some are tall with trees, some are wet with lots of moisture, and some have got tall grass. And as you can see now in our picture, we have all three of those habitats, and then behind the trees is the river, which is another habitat. So when we talk about animals and their habitat, it's where they like to be. You go to school and you go home and you've got your favorite shop and the movie and the cinema you go to. You could kind of talk about that being your habitat, but out here the animal's habitat is where they like to feed, have their babies, and spend most of their time. So on that note, we're going to go 1,600 miles all the way down to South Africa to James, who I think is still in the tent out of the rain.
Right, we are sitting back in the tent, everybody, and I found an amazing creature. It was living in this little thing here. And you know what it is? It's a kind of a bug. Let's have a look. Oh, he's just run away. What a disaster. Hang on. He's coming back to my microscope now. No, don't run away, little thing. The problem with this bug, I don't want to touch him. You don't want to touch him because he's a stink bug. He makes a puffy smell when he feels like you want to attack him. And if I am not careful, he will think I'm trying to attack him. Then I'll just sit still. These kids just want to have a quick look at you. There we are. Look at him. Isn't he amazing? Can you see his eyes? And his feelers, those are the long things sticking out the front of his nose. And Steve was talking about habitats. Well, you know, he talked about the river and the forest and the tree. Well, this little chap's habitat is right here in this little, what we call a gall. You don't need to remember that word, but basically it's a swollen branch. And that's his little habitat. Isn't he cool? I think let's take him outside and put him back in his home. Because even with a little bug like this, we need to be very careful. Now, Teresa, you wanted to know why spiders have 8 legs. Teresa, I think that's quite a complicated question. It's a very good question, to which I only have a simple answer. And the simple answer is that it's easier for them to move. They're able to move sideways and frontwards and up walls and along the roof and that sort of thing. It also helps them. Sometimes their legs are modified to help them to catch things. They don't have fingers like us, so sometimes they use their legs to help them catch things that they want to eat. So that's why they've got lots of legs. I'm going to put them back here and hope that he survives. Oh, now Kylie, you ask a very good question, because I said that spiders carry their eggs in their mouths, and you say, how do they do it for so long? Well, it's a little bit like asking the question, how do we walk on 2 feet? It's just what we're designed to do. It's easy for us. So you mustn't think of a spider as having a mouth like yours. And you can you imagine, you can hardly fit 1 egg in your mouth, let alone the 20 or so that the spider must carry. But the spider's mouth is designed to carry 20 eggs, and so it does. It's the same as us being able to walk on 2 feet and use our fingers and that sort of thing. So that's all very similar. Okay, let's go back inside here. It's getting a little windy and rainy out there. And I'll see what else I can find to show you in here. Ooh. Now, Reese, you want to know what spiders eat. The spider that I found under here would probably eat something like that bug over there, but also other small things. So he lives in a dark patch. This is what did we call him again? A daddy long-legged spider. They live in dark areas. Normally this tent is dark because we close the walls. So he's chosen to come and live in a dark area. So he'll eat small insects that live in dark areas. He might eat something like a small cockroach, for example. That'll be very delicious for them. Okay, we're going to go back up to the Masai Mara while I look for more things to put under the microscope. I don't know, Steve's got a very special little antelope to show you.
Spiders indeed. Do they give you the creeps? They don't give me the creeps. I quite like spiders. But here we have one of the most common antelope in southern Africa, is an impala. Very, very beautiful. And there we have a waterbuck with it as well. The female waterbuck, who is not very happy because there is an oxpecker on her bottom. The oxpecker is busy combing through the fur looking for ticks. Very strong feet for holding on, but that waterbuck is not like having something with sharp claws sitting on your back, scratching you. Hello, Connor. Connor, you ask, how do animals use camouflage to protect themselves? It's a very interesting question. Now, when we look at, for example, antelope that have camouflage, you won't believe it, but those impala there actually have camouflage, which we call counter shading, and we are seeing with color. We see color, but most animals see with black and white. So that color of the impala being dark on the back, lighter on the side, and then white on the tummy actually makes them quite invisible when they are black and white, especially when they're in a big group like that. They kind of just all mix together into one big number, almost like a big blur, that when the leopard or the lion are looking at them, they find it difficult to pick one of them out. But then a lot of other animals use camouflage, which blends in with the environment. When you look at some tortoises, they look just like the ground or the grass. When you look at a leopard blends in with the leaves and the grass that it's moving through. So it's very, very camouflaged. That's for being able to get very close to these animals. But even though the animals are often camouflaged, like these impala can be, you can see that they're in this nice open area because they want to be able to see the lion or the leopard coming, or the cheetah, so that they can run away. Can you see how they're all hanging out in this sort of short grass area? And that's because if they do get seen, they want to be able to run away, because the cheetah and the leopard will try to sneak up, or the lion will try to sneak up using that very long grass as camouflage for themselves. But it's a wonderful place. All these animals are sitting here. You can even see the waterbuck is looking in the distance. And we're going to move on from here. We're going to go down all the way again to South Africa to my friend Noel with a baby antelope.
Hello kiddos, I have a very special surprise for you. This is a baby kudu who was born maybe 10-15 minutes ago. It is a brand new baby kudu. The mom is still licking off all the afterbirth. It's super exciting. My name is Noelle, and on camera I have Seb. Hello Seb. It's so nice to have all of you with us for your very first time on Safari Live. Now I believe you're talking about camouflage, and the kudu has an amazing set of camouflage along the side of their bodies. And you see the mum there, she's got stripes, white stripes down the side. She's a little bit darker than normal because she's just been rained on. But those stripes are there to help break up the shape of her body. It's called disruptive marking. So camouflage has different names, and this particular one is a disruptive marking. So what she'll do is she'll hide behind a bush, and it helps break up the body shape because most of the predators don't see in color the way we do. They see in shades of brown and black and white and gray. Now I just want to move the vehicle a little bit so we can see that baby a bit better. Kudus are also a really good animal to have a look at, like the warthogs you saw with Steve. If anything is happening in your ecosystem or in the habitat in which these animals are living, the kudu and the warthog will be the first to have problems. Here we go. I'm just going to turn. I've got my roof on for the rain, so it's a little bit tricky finding a spot, but we're going to get a really nice spot just here. Is that okay for you, Seb? Yeah. There we go. I'm just going to duck down so that Seb can get the camera in there. Azaria, good question. Azaria, antelopes are mammals like us, like humans, and the babies are born live. So a mammal nurses its baby with milk, has hair on the body, and the baby lives inside of a placenta in the body for a certain amount of months. It's different for every mammal species. This kudu, it's about 9 months, I believe, if I'm remembering correctly, and then they give birth to live young. That's one of the special traits of any mammal species, and that would be humans, kudu, warthog, lions, elephants, hippos. I'm so in love with this little baby kudu right now, everyone. This is the cuteness factor that we always love to have. Now, this young male kudu is actually coming out right in front of my vehicle. And I just want to show you this one here. It's out in the open a little bit more. Tiny little horns. This kudu is probably about a year old, just under a year old. When he's an older male, he'll have big, beautiful spiraling horns, and will go off and join other males or sometimes be by himself. But for now, he still needs mum and aunties, and they live in a herd together. Now, my friend Steve is still busy up in the Mara, so let's head on up to him.
Oh, that is just the cutest baby kudus. I'm sure Noelle was so excited. I think most ladies love little babies. I quite enjoy seeing young antelope as well, but I know Noelle gets very, very excited. And here we have two of the most beautiful birds you probably ever see. These are called grey-crowned cranes, and this is a pair. This is a husband and a wife, and this is their habitat, boys and girls. We're talking about habitat. They need it to be long grass, very marshy. So marshy is like a swamp, lots and lots of moisture, and they will actually put their nests just on the flat piece of grass in amongst a very, very wet area. And they're walking through as a pair with a beautiful crown on their head, and they're just picking off insects and grass seeds off of the vegetation, and very, very long legs enables them to walk through these very wet and muddy areas. I don't know if you've ever walked through a lot of mud. Our feet go squish, squish, and we go deep in, but they've got really nice big toes and long legs, which helps them to walk nicely across the mud. Ali, my word, that is an amazing question. How many types of animals? Maybe if you come to me, I'll be able to show you just a brief book in a moment, but I don't know. There are hundreds. There are hundreds. I have got a book here that is Mammals of Africa, and this is nowhere near even all of them, I don't think. So there says there's 400 photographs here. So there's more than that. That's a very good question. I might have to ask someone else. I know that there's a lot of animals. Lots and lots and lots. More than 400 is probably a good answer. But this is a wonderful, look at this landscape, boys and girls. It goes on and on as far as the eye can see. And all the animals have got their heads up over here. We heard a bit of an alarm call. It's a perfect environment for lions and cheetah to be sneaking up on unsuspecting animals. And so they're always very watchful. No one wants to get caught and eaten alive. It's not fun. Definitely not fun. I don't see anything though. Ali, this is wild. All these animals are very, very wild. There's no taming here. What happens is we might see them quite close, and they've gotten used to us and the vehicle. But if I walked out on foot, they would see me as a human, and they'd all run away. But they get quite used to the vehicle. These are very, very wild animals. They're not tame. Wild animals can all be dangerous, but it's amazing how close we can get to them in a vehicle. But don't mistake that for tame. They are completely wild. They live out here. They feed on the vegetation. They breed out here. They die out here. The lions do their thing. The leopards and hyena and the vultures. There's absolutely just complete circle of life with all the animals living out here in harmony, life and death. That's how it works. And we have the privilege of being out here to watch and to witness this and to show you all these wonderful sights and sounds. And there's a male impala with his really big horns, busy feeding. Elise asks, why do kudu have horns? And we're looking at the male impala here as well. And basically what we see is in the kudu and the impala, the male have horns for fighting. They want to fight with other males so that they can have access to the ladies. Without the horns, they won't be able to fight for the ladies. And so with impala and kudu, that's very, very specific to the males. When in a lot of animals, you see there behind, that is a topi that's walking with its head. And that is a female topi. And now the topi, with a lot of other animals you find in this open savanna ecosystem, they both have horns, male and female, because the female will actually turn and chase away a lion or a jackal or hyena and protect her baby. So you were talking about camouflage before. Some animals like to camouflage in the bushes, which you'll see down in South Africa. The kudu do very, very well. But the animals up here don't have the ability to camouflage very well. So they run very quickly. And if they can't run quickly, they will turn and they will chase away the predator with their horns. That's why if male and female both have horns, that is the purpose. Often the male's horns will be bigger than the female's. But that is the purpose of the horns. It's either for fighting with males or for defending the babies against predators. And then we have I think you got it, Thompson's gazelle. One of the fastest antelope in the world. Lily, that is a wonderful question. Why do the crowned cranes look like they have mohawks on their head? I don't know what the purpose is, but I think a lot of what it's got to do with is its maturity. It's kind of like its wedding dress or the tuxedo, that when they are old enough to breed, they then get that crown and they're showing the other male or female that is why they have it. But to be honest, that is a very good question, and I'm going to read up more about that. I don't know why they have it. It looks pretty, but I think it's got a lot to do with breeding. A lot to do with breeding. I think when the birds are younger, they don't have that crown, but I'll have a look. Have a look in my little app. I don't know if Okay, so we're going to go all the way back down to South Africa. I'm going to keep looking on my app, see if I can find an answer to your question. But while we do so, we're going to go 1,600 miles all the way back to the tent and Mr. James Henry.
The thunder and the wind have come back. It's very scary. It's okay though, we'll be all right. I just wanted to answer Steve's question. You asked him a very good question. How many animals are in Africa? Now, there are two parts of this question you need to think about. Remember, that yes, when you talk about big animals like the impala and the Thompson's gazelle and that sort of thing that you saw there, well, there are about 1,100 mammals. Okay, that's what kind of animals those are. But remember, all the reptiles like lizards, they're also animals. Remember, all the birds, and there are 2,500 kinds of birds in Africa. That's a big number. In fact, I wonder if any of you could actually count up to that number. It's very big. They're also animals. Fishes are animals. Insects are animals. Spiders are animals. Scorpions are animals. And so are frogs. And so when we say how many animals there are, they're almost over-accountable. You know, more than 10,000 different kinds of animals live in Africa. One of them is known as the duiker. And the duiker is a small antelope. And the small antelope, unsurprisingly, makes small poo. There it is. Now, because the duiker eats grass, I don't want you to think that I'm picking something disgusting up here. I'm not. Because the duiker is a grass and leaf eater, it really is not very dangerous to pick it up. I would never pick up dog poo or monkey poo or lion poo, but this sort of poo is quite okay to pick up. So if we go to the microscope, there we are. You can see it under the microscope. We'll get very close down. See if we can get a little bit closer than that. There we are. And you can see it's got a black covering on the end. But now what I'm going to do is break a piece open for you. And you can see how very clever this duiker is. What it does is that it chews its food twice. Now, I don't know if you've heard this about something like a cow, for example. But a cow chews its food twice as well. And that's because it's then able to digest it really well. That's just my fingernail there. There we go. That's what it looks like inside. See that? And look how tiny the pieces are. So the duiker chews its food once, it swallows it, goes into the stomach, and then you know what it has to do. It has to vomit it up again, and then it chews it again, and then swallows it again, and then it comes out this size here. And it means that they get all of the goodness from their food by chewing it and digesting it twice. Digesting basically means when your food goes through your body and it gives you energy, that's what happens. Now, my friend Noelle has left her kudus and she's got something very bright and blue that likes to fly.
I do. I've got a bird called a starling. This is a Cape glossy starling, and the feathers actually change color. Sometimes he's green, sometimes black, sometimes blue, sometimes purple, and he lives in many different habitats, and he's after insects. There he flies off. So birds are quite lucky because they can fly, they can move around very easily within their habitat. However, that being said, they can't move if the weather conditions outside are either too cold or too hot. It takes up too much energy. So they want to move when the weather conditions are optional. Right now, where we're sitting, we don't have a lot of rain. We can still see the beautiful clouds and hear the thunder in the background, and there's quite a lot of lightning. But what's happening is, because it's already rained here, a lot of the insect species are out, and so the birds are, it's cool enough, but not so cold, that the birds can hop around and access a lot of those insect species. And one of the ones that's coming out now is a special kind of termite called a winged ally. So there's termites that live in mounds, and there's termites that live just under the ground here. And then during this time of year, they send out very special winged male and females that go off that will start a new colony. It's absolutely amazing. Now we're going to carry on in this general direction. Maybe we'll find some more birds or maybe some more antelope species. There's a huge wasp that's flying in front. I don't know, we might be able to get it. It's called a spider hunting wasp. It goes and injects the spider with a special venom that paralyzes it, and then it lays its babies in there, and then when the babies hatch, they break out and they eat the spider. Now, Ali, you're wondering, how do we find the animal, where the animals live? We find them by tracks. That's one of the ways that we find them. We also find them by knowing what types of habitats they like to be in, how they look, and how they feed. All of that it shows what kind of movements they'll do and what areas they'll like in general. And so we go and check out those areas. places, and then that's how we find the animals that we're looking for. Also, things like lions are very territorial. So like you all live in a home, your home is your home, and you live there, and you go to school every day, and then you might go to sport every day, and you've got certain things you do. That's you moving around your territory. Animals are exactly the same. So if I were to look for one of you, first I'd check your home. Now you're not in your home. Then I might check your school. Now you're not at school. Then I might go to the sport field. No, you're not there. Maybe I go to your best friend's house, and that's how we find them, is little places like that. All right. Now, Steve is still up in Kenya, which is far to the north and east from me. It's about 1,600 miles away, and he has an amazing bird to show you, so let's head on up there.
And you are back with us in the Mara Triangle, and we have got a bird that is walking through the long grass with its back to us. It is one of the largest birds that we find. It's called the ground hornbill, like Zazu in The Lion King, except this is a much bigger relative. It's very, very big. It's walking through on the ground and picking up all sorts of insects, frogs, whatever it might be able to find on the ground there. And as Noel was saying, the rains bring the insects. We've had lots of rain up here. You can see how green the grass is. And I'm surprised to see it on its own. You often find these birds in groups. There we go. Let's see what it's got. Oh, it caught something and it swallowed it. You see that? Pick them up and throw it into the throat. Absolutely gorgeous bird. They work in a family, these birds. That's why I'm surprised I haven't seen the rest of them. You often find them in groups of 3 or 5, and they will breed and then obviously have one chick. Ari, why do the birds eat insects? They eat insects because there's so many of them. When the rains come, we get lots and lots and lots of insects. But these birds would eat snakes, they'll eat rodents, mice, they'll eat small frogs. We even saw one eating a little terrapin the other day, which is like a tortoise. So they'll eat anything they come across that they can break open with their beak, and they'll shove in their mouth. So they're not too picky. They'll feed on whatever they can get. I've never seen them killing or catching any sort of larger prey, but definitely if they can catch a mouse or a snake or a lizard, definitely they'll grab that. Very strong, powerful beak. And even though it's walking on the ground, they are able to fly. Beautiful. Is that not a gorgeous bird? Very busy. There we go. That looked like a little grasshopper or something. And they have got such pretty eyelashes. If we could get closer, you would notice how pretty those eyelashes are. They're just constantly feeding, isn't it? Putting them into sort of like what we call the crop, just in the throat, sort of a storage pouch. They just put a whole lot of food in there, and they can sort that out later. They don't have teeth like we do, so they don't spend time chewing. They just walk around, catch lots of food, and then throw it in. So next, what a gorgeous bird. I'm wondering where the family is. He's looking quite lonely out here. Normally 3 or 5, and it's normally good luck to see these birds. And we're going to go 1,600 miles again back to South Africa, where I hope the rain is not so bad at the moment, and Noel has got another beautiful bird.
We've got another bird that's looking for insects after this beautiful bit of rain we've had. This is called a Cape turtle dove, and his call goes, work harder, work harder, work harder. He's got a very specific call. Now, doves are interesting. They're very similar to pigeons. They're cousins. And if you've ever heard or seen doves flying or pigeons flying, they make a thwap, thwap, thwap noise. Their bodies are actually too fat for them to pick up off the ground properly to fly. So when they fly, they have to touch their wingtips on top and then push down, and then push down really hard to the bottom to get their fat little bodies off the ground. We say that they're not aerodynamically correct. So something that's aerodynamic would be something like an airplane that is built to go through the air with ease. Doves are not built that way, unfortunately. And he's probably also looking for those termites that are out and about, as well as things like grasshoppers. Ooh, Absolutely. We've got many different types of predator birds. We have many different kinds of eagles. We've got African fish eagle and battleurs. We also have vultures that eat off of carcasses. And we have martial eagles. We have a whole bunch of them. But in weather like this, with this kind of rain, they're going to be hiding away in the tops of trees. I haven't found any quite yet, but if I find any before you have to leave us, I'll look for them for sure. Now we've got another little bird that's in the background there. It's called a crowned lapwing. It used to be called a crowned plover. It is also out and about looking for insects and then also doing something called preening. Because of the rain, it got wet. And so it's busy making sure that all of its feathers fit back exactly where they should, as well as getting oil onto them to help wick away any more rain that might be coming. Braven, interesting question. How do birds fly with their wings? Well, one thing, Braven, is that the bones in their body are hollow and very lightweight, right? And then the feathers overlap each other in such a way that when they stretch out their wings and then push against the air, like you can do that with your arms now. I'm doing it with my arms now. Push against the air. All those feathers gather the air up to help lift their light little bodies off the ground. Now, my friend Tristan has found something very exciting for you, so let's head on over to him so you can see your surprise.
I have indeed. I found the biggest of the big cats out here in Africa. We found our resident lion pride. So it took a bit of time to find them. We did see them this morning, but they were lying in a very different place. So we had to follow their footprints and where they walked, and they were taking shelter from the rain that we've just had. And now they've come out and they're lying in an open area and they're busy just cleaning themselves a little bit, getting rid of all the water that's on them. And then you'll find from there, they're going to probably get up and maybe even go start hunting, because it's the right kind of weather for lions to hunt. They like stormy weather. Now you can see that female, she's got a very bad injury on her hip. Now that injury is healing very well, but it was much bigger than that. It was probably about 3 times larger than what it is now. So it's really healing well, and she's doing incredibly well to try and overcome that, because it's not easy to recover from an injury. And that's why lions are so lucky, is because even though she was very badly injured, she was luckily could rely on all of the other members of the pride, so she could use all the other females to try and help her get food. And the more she fed and the more she was able to get nutrients, the more she was able to survive and to be able to process and to deal with the infections and all kinds of other things that would have come her way. So it's very important that lions stick together. It helps them be able to survive, that's for sure. So very cool, and I'm so glad we found them. I thought we might not find them in time to show all of you. Now here come some of the cubs. There's even one of the little ones is coming, so you can see the smallest of the pride. There's only one of the small ones left. Unfortunately, there were 3 that were that size, but 2 of them disappeared, and so we've just got the one. And that little one is now about 4 to 5 months old, so it's getting bigger, and its siblings are a little bit larger. They're closer to 2 years, and you can see, because it's been raining, now it's time for play. So these guys have been sitting under a bush and they've been waiting for the rain to stop, but now that it's stopped, they're going to play a lot. And look at the little one, it's coming to say hello to Dad. It's saying, how are you? Look, it's having a little sniff. Now generally the males don't really like the cubs, but this particular male, he doesn't mind the cubs at all. I've seen the cubs climbing on him, jumping on. There we go, look at that. How cool is that? That is very special. So the little one is having lots of fun with Dad, jumping all over his mane. Now, Anya, you're wondering what they eat. Well, Anya, these guys, because they live in a group together like this, they can eat really large things. And so this pride absolutely loves to eat buffalo. That's what they really want. They'll try and hunt buffalo as much as possible, but you'll also find that sometimes they'll even hunt things like impalas. They'll hunt kudus like Noel saw earlier, and they'll hunt giraffe, sometimes even baby elephants if that's what they can find. So they hunt all kinds of things, but generally bigger animals, because all of these guys need to feed together, and that means that they've got to try and find something big to feed all of them, because that male there alone weighs close to 500 pounds, and so he eats a lot of meat, which means that they've got to try and find enough meat for all of them, and so only things like buffalo are really big enough. But there you can see moms are just watching carefully just to make sure doesn't get on Dad's nerves too much and get hurt. But look at the little cub. It's on top of Dad now, pulling the mane. This little cub's going to have to be careful. I'm sure Dad is not going to not going to like that his mane is being pulled. It's like, imagine going to your dad if he has a beard and grabbing on his beard and pulling his beard. Not going to be very pleasant. But how cute is that? That is very cool. So cute. Unfortunately, it is that time, though, that we do need to say goodbye to all of you. I hope that you have had an absolutely wonderful time with us on safari, and that you will have a great day further at school, and that you don't get too much homework, and that it's lots and lots of fun. But for now, we're going to carry on our safari, and we hope that we'll see you at some stage soon again. Right, so the schools are now gone and we are back into normal drive, so a very warm welcome to all of you. Remember that this is interactive, so hashtag Safari Live on Twitter or on YouTube chat if you want to ask any questions. And what a magical way to spend an afternoon. The Nkuhuma Pride in full playful mode, and how relaxed is Tinyo. So for those of you who don't know who Tinyo is the big male that's with them this morning, or afternoon should I say. He was with them this morning as well, but he tends to be very relaxed with cubs. It's a weird thing because he's sometimes such a grumpy male with his coalition members, but with these little ones, they climb all over him and jump on his head and pull on his mane, and he seems not to be too fussed by it at all, which is pretty cool. Now, there was another Birmingham male on Djuma this morning, and Suku, we did have him early in the morning. Some of you might have seen him on the dam cam. He then got up and walked straight south into Little Gowrie, and we lost him there. So he went that way. He was contact calling, but these guys didn't respond. They were too busy sleeping at Twin Dams, resting and digesting the waterbuck that they killed yesterday morning. So they've had a very relaxed day, and it's so good to find them, because I thought we were stressing a little bit because I couldn't find any tracks around Twin Dams, which is where they slept this morning. And then we came into the Mulawati and we found nice fresh tracks on top of the rain and followed them up to this side. Now, I believe a lot of you are commenting on just how cute that scene was of this little cub. And there again, look at that. Isn't that cool? And look how it's grabbing the mane and the ears. Tinyo, you are very patient. Little cub, you are going to get yourself into trouble shortly. This is so cool. Look at the bits of mane that cub has pulled out. You can see the blonde section on the dark hair. So if you... This poor male is going to be bald by the time this cub is finished with him. But there's a nice big chunk of mane that's been pulled out by that little cub. And now the bush is under assault. There goes the tree in the bush. And there we go, Senzo just to the right. So look at the little one. It's busy attacking the tree now. It's decided, well, Dad's mane is pulling out too easy. I want something else that I can bite on. And so the tree is now suffering a vicious assault by this tiny little one. There you go. Leaves are falling off. It's all happening. This little one is causing absolute mass destruction at the moment. There you go. Dad's gone back to sleep again, which is cool. I think the little one's not going to be finished with Dad, though. Dad's going to get another round shortly. There we go. There we go. And up on top of the head. How cute is that? It doesn't get any better than that in terms of a sighting of lions. How cool. You are naughty, little one. You're going to get yourself into trouble now. Dad's going to bite you shortly. Yep, I think Dad's had enough. He's going to get up and probably move off. The rest of the pride is slowly getting up and moving, and so I think they're going to be fairly active this afternoon. After the massive rain that we've had, I think we're going to have a situation where there's definitely going to be a lot of movement from them, and maybe they're even going to try and hunt. So we'll stick with them, and while we do that, let's send you back over to James Henry, who I'm sure is ecstatic to be back in his tent after a long period away.
I am quite happy to be back in my tent, I must say. I think ecstatic is a strong term. But that sighting you've just had there of lion and cub, I've said to many of you before, is my favourite thing to watch out here. I don't think there's anything else I prefer to watch. Little babies with male lions, and how when they're patient like that, because it's so unusual, it doesn't happen like that. And Tinyo really has been quite remarkable. I think that's marvellous. I just have to say to you, of course, now the school drive is over, hashtag Safari Live. Please talk to us on Twitter. Otherwise, you can use the chat on YouTube, and we'll take your questions and your comments. Now, one of the things that I've often tried to find and often failed to show on camera, and I don't think we've ever had it, may have had it under the microscope before, is a flea beetle. And the flea beetles live, of course, on Rus gwenzii, whose common name escapes me briefly, the thorny caree. Here we have a flea beetle under the microscope, and we might actually be able to show you why it's called a flea beetle. It is called a flea beetle because, of the big leg you can see just sticking out on the left-hand side of the beetle. Can you see that? That enormous femur allows this beetle to jump like a flea. Now, if you come back to me, I'll move and see if we can't get a slightly better view. I've got two flea beetles on here, and one of them has beautifully exposed his shapely thigh. Ooh, there it is. Look at the power in that thing. Isn't that remarkable? What muscles. If I'd had legs like that, I'd been playing rugby for South Africa for many years. That is quite astonishing. So, I mean, an insect's muscle doesn't work quite like our muscles do, I don't think. But I guess the mechanism must be fairly similar, and so the bigger it is, generally the more powerful it is. And so this thing is an enormous, basically the same as your quadricep, and it's able to jump a greater distance. Now, remember the other thing about the flea beetle, for those of you who have forgotten, and I'm sure that's none of you, the larva, of course, was used by the San Bushmen to poison their arrows. Very poisonous arrow, or very poisonous larva from the flea beetle. And it only occurs on this tree, the thorny caree. Did you see what I did there? Yeah. That was beautiful. Okay, let's go back across to the Maasai Mara, where Steve is. He has got something with a long neck and horn things, and it's a...
Thanks, Bushman James. Very interesting. I'd love to have a look at that under the microscope myself. Here we have, for me, the first Maasai giraffe. Beautiful. I mean, I've seen one before, but it didn't have the colors of this, and this is classic. Just the color. It's brown, it's not black, it's dark, it's beautiful. Big male. Fantastic to see it. I officially now know I am definitely in the Maasai Mara, and the triangle for that matter. Welcome back to all of those of you on the live internet show. My name again, Steve Falconbridge, and don't forget to send your questions and comments through to hashtag Safari Live. We'd love to interact with you this afternoon. Myself with Archie on camera, we're going to be heading through to where Taylor had the Paradise Pride, so hopefully we can find them, and she did say they were looking very, very hungry. Lady Starfire wants to know if the crest on the head of the crown cranes is different from the feathers. That's a very interesting one. I don't know. I only saw them for the first time 2 days ago, and I was asked a very nice question by a youngster earlier, so I'm going to have to do some reading, Lady Starfire, about the crown crane. But I would say it's feather. I'd say it's a form of feather. I mean, all birds only are able to produce feather, so it's still a form of keratin. And it's just different types of plumage, but how that feather works is a different story. I know the birds that you find, the birds of paradise you find in Madagascar, have got amazing adornments on their heads. They are just feathers, but they just work in a very different way, not flight, but as adornments, so as the crown itself. So I'm pretty sure it is made out of feather, but I'd have to have a little look at exactly what it's made up and how it's formed. I think that would be nice to see under the microscope. We have a little feeding party here of a warthog and some gazelle, looking quite relaxed. I don't think they have any idea there are lions nearby, but we are headed in the direction that Taylor asked us or informed me of. Still finding my way around, but it's wonderful to be out here and exploring. There is a little bit of rain on the horizon, but we're not afraid of the rain. So we're going to go see if we can find our lions, and in the meantime I believe Tristan is having some serious fun in the south with his.
Well, I am having fun, other than the fact that I have this pesky roof on at the moment, which is causing a bit of drama because it's thick in here and it's not really easy to off-road with this roof. But anyway, we'll make a plan and we'll get it right and figure it out. But our lions are on the move. They definitely are in the mood for food. They keep putting their noses to the wind and sniffing, and some of the females are really striding. They're trying to go as quick as possible. I can see Tinyo is now coming up as well, so the cubs are still behind us, but Tinyo is going to join that female in the next 2 seconds. There he is. So he's going to come and just have a little look around as well, and everybody seems to look as though they want to start to find food and at least mean business as well. So it's a situation where they are on the lookout for something, and hopefully there'll be a rogue buffalo somewhere here. So Matt, no, this male lion does not stay with the pride full time. He does come into the pride fairly regularly, but he doesn't stay full time. At the end of the day, he's got 3 other coalition members that also will hang around with this pride from time to time and will kind of look after what goes on. But for the most part, you'll find that these males actually tend to spend a lot of time on their own, and they only really come into the pride when there's 1, food, 2, if there's a mating opportunity. And we know that these lions were on a kill yesterday, and so maybe that's how he found them, is because he realized they were on a kill. And secondly, there is a 5th member in terms of the females that currently isn't here, so she's not seen at the moment. I don't know where she is or what she's been doing, but Amber Eyes female doesn't seem to be with the pride, and so she might have been in an estrus cycle, which caused all of these males to try and come and find the Nkuhuma pride, and now he's just stuck with them because there's been an opportunity for food, as well as the fact, well, I suppose he's just coming to check in with his offspring. At the end of the day, we don't know which of the males are the fathers of these cubs, but one of the 4 of them is definitely the father. Mr. Killed, is that what you said, Nikki? I think something like that. You want to know if it's true that a male lion, when he's hungry, will just decide to eat his cubs because he's hungry. So no, that is an absolute myth, and it is false. That is not true at all. Male lions will kill cubs, but only when they are taking over a new territory and they are trying to bring the females back into estrus. What they don't want is, because a male lion's tenure as a dominant individual is so short, you'll have a situation where, a male will only probably be dominant for 3-4 years, maybe a little bit longer if he's lucky. But in that time, he's theoretically only going to have 2 to 3 sets of cubs with a single female, and so if he kills his cubs, he's ruining the chance of his bloodline going forward. And a male lion's pretty much singularly programmed to breed and to try and extend his bloodline, so him killing his own cubs to eat them because he's hungry is not very productive at all, and certainly is going to mean that they're going to get very, very sort of, well, they're actually not going to get anywhere at the end of the day. They'll just keep on eating their own cubs, because male lions do get hungry quite often. So it would be a silly system for that to happen, and certainly it doesn't happen. You find that even when he's hungry, he'd rather go and catch an impala than eat his own offspring. So Nate, yes, this is the same male that climbed the tree the other day to get the leopard kill. Remember, we were saying that he was almost like he was trying to track down the Nkuhuma pride, and so he obviously was successful during that part of the day, because the next morning is when James found him with the Nkuhuma pride at Chitwa Dam when we were doing one of our rehearsals, and they had that waterbuck kill, and he's just then stuck with them since then. So it is the same individual, and he's looking as though he could do with another pilfered meal that he could find somewhere. Hopefully not Tundi's, because Tundi is up in this area, although we're quite far south from where Tundi is at the moment. So hopefully they cut a little bit more east. There are a few lurking Duggar boys around, so male buffalo that have been left behind by the herd that was here a few days ago, so maybe that's what they're looking for. Now, I'm going to try and catch up with these lions once again, because these youngsters are busy playing. The rest have moved on, and while I do that, let's go back across to James, who I think is looking at something that is known as fungi.
Something that is known as fungi. Well, yes, that's because it is fungi that we're looking at here. This fungi is known as fungi. It is a kind of bracket fungus, but we've stopped at it, or are looking at it, because of its beautiful pink colours. It is a very subtle pink colour. More than that about it I cannot really say, but there is a great plethora of life on this little branch. We did have some termites, there they are, some termites messing around in the bark there. Tiny little things, and we will close this up again as soon as we've finished, because the termites don't like to be exposed to the sun. I have Polyrhacus the ant. She's crawling on the fungus now. You see her there? There she is. Very special stuff. All right, we'll wrap this thing up again now. We're going to head you over to Steve. Apparently he's got a little carnivore that is striped like a tiger, but isn't in fact a tiger.
So folks, I'm just trying to reposition here. We've got a beautiful sighting of some banded mongoose, which I'm just trying to reposition for. There we go, Arch. They are little gangsters of the bush, and they found something there. They're very busy. They just came up on the side of us and then obviously decided to come up behind, and they are little gangsters, these guys, and they've definitely found some form of resource there. There's a whole lot of hippo dung on top of that rock. There's quite a prominent pathway coming up from the water there. A little bit of hippo dung on the rock, and there's probably all sorts of insects and dung beetle larvae and who knows what else underneath that rock, or just there, because a hippo would constantly be coming up, and you'd find all sorts of endocroprids and dung beetles that would probably be burying that hippo dung right on the spot. And so they were just digging in that grass. I don't think they found too much. They were quite busy, and off they go, little gangsters. I love them. Philip would like to know if animals ever just go on a stroll, on a wander, or is everything purposeful? I don't think many animals out there do anything for fun, apart from humans, dolphins, and then what you see with elephant when they go swimming. But with these mongooses, however you'd like to call it, there's definitely purpose behind their madness. They are on the stroll, they are foraging, they are together, they're also defending a territory against other gangs, and also defending themselves against predators. So it's a non-stop battle for them. There's no rest out here. They don't have the luxury of just being able to go off on a little wander, so to speak, because they are birds of prey, they are leopards, they are probably caracal and serval, anything like that would quite easily take an unsuspecting animal. Steenak says, is it true, do some species of mongoose feed on termites and ants? Most definitely. There's lots of animals that feed on ants and termites when they can, and mongoose will do that definitely. They'll dig them up, they'll pick up individuals off the ground, they'll catch the alates, the flying termites as they come out. They're obviously not as efficient or as dominating in their diet as they are in aardvarks, but when it comes to feeding, these guys will feed on anything they come across, from scorpions, any ants on the ground they might come across. Obviously ants start hissing and giving up forms of forming acid, so it's probably an only amount you can tolerate, but definitely termite alates and any of the little workers on the ground, they quite gladly pick up and munch. Wonderful to watch these guys. Willow Wanderer wants to know if the mongoose will have more than one den, and they could have more than one. They move between them on occasion. Dens start getting a little bit infested with fleas and ticks and parasites, and so they'll often move between them. I don't know the number, but I know with dwarf mongoose you definitely get 2 or 3, maybe 4 within a small territory that they'll go between. But the den can be moved quite easily as long as it's not occupied. They move in with force, or there's no one in there like a giant snake or something like that. They quite easily just move into any form of shelter that suffices if the weather conditions change. But they will have certain mounds that they'll frequent more regularly, and they'll be very exclusive, and they'll be coming back to them over and over again. And we're going to go back to Tristan, I believe, who's got a much larger predator in his midst.
Well, we do indeed. So we've got the whole Nkuhuma pride, but they're kind of slowly drifting past the front of us. So I'm just sitting here watching them as they go along. It's now the cubs that are coming past, and the little one is somewhere behind us and having the best time. It's literally playing with every single sibling. So now that it's yanked bits of dad's fur out, it's now trying to do the same with all the others too. Now they hopefully will come, because they're right at the back there. I can see the two of them. There's a young one of the young females, and this little cub that are busy playing at the back behind us here. So hopefully they'll come trotting along. I can see one of them is up and moving, so we'll just be patient and wait for them to come as the others start drifting off further away from us. It's going to be really difficult to follow them where they're going. They're going into a horrible thicket, and with the roof on, it's never really that easy, but we'll definitely try. We're going to see what we can do. Now, these two are having the best game. Let me just turn here, Sens, because I'm going to try and just get some sort of a view of these ones that are busy playing on this side. Oh, here they come anyway. So, there we go. Look at that dark sky in the background as well. That's very cool. So, Christina, you're asking, will other coalition members kill the cubs from a different male's, well, one of the other coalition members' cubs? So it has happened, yes. In so far with the Nkuhuma pride and Six pride and the Birminghams, it hasn't. So we haven't seen the Birminghams attacking the cubs, even if they potentially think that they're not. And that's probably because the females mated with all four of the males every single time. Most of these females, when they were in estrus, tried to mate with all of them. But I have seen it with the Majingalans and the Mapojos. Both of them have killed each other's cubs before. It does happen from time to time, and it's particularly when there's been a separation of the males and that particular male didn't mate with that female, then sometimes he will kill them in probably the thought that it's not his cubs or not their coalition cubs, because he wasn't part of that mating process. And so that's when you'll see a situation where cubs are killed by a coalition member. Come on, little one, you're right at the back. You need to catch up, otherwise you're going to get yourself into trouble. But look at that little belly. You can see that this little one definitely got the lion's share of the meal and is still digesting. And that's what happens when you can supplement a water buck with a bit of milk, unlike all of the others that are still, that have been weaned off milk. They're no longer on milk at the moment. Right. Now I've got to try and turn around and reverse without actually... Now, I'm going to try and just reposition and try and get myself into a better spot, but apparently we're going to send you back to Mr. Henry. No idea what he's up to, but you know him in the tent. He's always entertaining, and I'm sure he's got lots of funny things to tell you.
Yes, I hope I'm entertaining. Good. Microscope. There we have the bracket fungus that I showed you a little bit earlier. And every time I do a little segment on fungus, I am constantly aware about how little I know about them. But all of those little strands or little pieces there that look like Velcro are the mycelia that make up this fungus. And what I'll do is just flip it over if you come back to me so that people don't get seasick. Now, to me, face on. Oh. That was Noel. I don't think that was me at all. Right, there we are. Good. Okay. You thought I'd changed, didn't you? No, I haven't. I'm the same. Then if we go underneath the microscope, you can see where all the spores have already been cast to the wind, and they'll be setting themselves up on rotting wood in other parts. Isn't that cool? I don't know if this is edible or not. I suspect it probably is not. But I don't think bracket fungus is actually toxic. Beautiful. Look at the detail. All encoded in these tiny little cells. And if you look on the bottom left-hand side, let me just move that up a little bit like that. There you can see some even finer detail. Let me just try and get it a little bit closer. This may go slightly... Oh, well done, Nicola. There we go. See? back to me, not Noel. It's a bit better if I'm actually talking to people, I find. I always find it's far less incongruous that way. There's a lion roaring, and it's not Tinyo, and that's not unusual. Okay, let's go back to the microscope. Not unusual after rain, of course, because they need to re-establish their territories. Now, every little detail here is encoded in every single little cell that you see here. So we've got a picture of probably hundreds of thousands of cells here. That's what we're looking at, hundreds of thousands of cells. And in every single one of them, there is the DNA, the complete blueprint for everything in this fungus. Isn't that just astonishing? So of the hundreds of thousands of cells in the picture you're looking at right now, they're much too small for us to see with this microscope. We'd have to get a much more powerful microscope. In every single one of those cells, there is a blueprint for this entire fungus. Now, I find that absolutely astounding. While I ponder this almost unfathomable complexity of the natural world, we're going to go back to the Mara and Stivovo.
What a marvellous idea, James, looking at fungus under the microscope. Definitely something I've never managed to do before, but I'm sure it must be incredible. Lovely to have this technology available to us when conditions are not too favourable. And here we have a beautiful black-backed jackal. I know Taylor would be quite excited now. I think this is one of her favourite animals. She gets very excited out here. There are two of them. You can't see the other one now. It's just disappeared in the long grass. But by far one of my favourite calls in the bush, the call of the black-backed jackal. Please don't ask me to imitate it. I'll do a horrible job. I think he's in there. Disappeared. Yeah, it was there a moment ago. But this other one is quite interested. Beautiful big ears. I am not going to try and imitate it because I don't want to scare the poor animal that's going to look at me and think, what the hell was that? Or it might attract lions and leopards because it might sound like a distress call of an animal dying. I could play it off my phone, but I don't want to instigate these poor animals. We are within their territory right now, and to be able to mess with their territory would not be very ethical now, would it, folks? There we go. Wasn't enjoying the camera. So now I moved off and hid in the long grass. So we are getting close to the area where Taylor had, there we go, there's the other one, on the daily patrol. When Taylor had the Paradise Pride, we did have a few lions before on the other side of the river. So we're going to come to where she said she saw some, and then if we are not lucky, we're going to go back to the ones we saw on the other side. But it'd be impossible to follow them. Anna, have I watched jackals annoying lions before? I've watched jackals many times on the outskirts of a kill. I've never seen the jackals come too close into the lions, but I've seen them jostling with hyena. I've seen them jostling with a leopard once, and the jackal came off second best with the leopard. But I've had amazing footage back in the past of vultures and jackal having a go, and the jackal actually attacking one of the vultures and nearly killing it, but the vulture managed to get away, which was quite cool to see. But I think the jackal, they know their limits. But on that note, we're going to continue on down the road here to see if we can find the Paradise Pride, and while we do so, we're going to go back to Noel for an update.
Hi everyone. Hello. I am busy looking for Tundi and her little cub. We had a very, very, very brief visual of them here this morning, and it's a really tricky area to move in. You can tell by the bonnet of my vehicle that I've been doing a little bit of bundu bashing. It's rained, and it's rained nicely. Thank goodness we've had such beautiful rain. I would say maybe about 10 mils, nothing more than that. So it's not a huge amount, but it's something. And now I'm just sort of sitting where we saw them, looking for tracks, looking around, trying to hear birds, alarm calling. There was a lion roaring in the background, but not from where Tristan is, from the closer towards the DRC, towards where we live. And other than that, it's been a pretty quiet afternoon. Oh, we got that baby kudu earlier. That was amazing. Brand new baby kudu. All right, so I think while I'm busy trying to figure out where she's gone, let's head back to Tristan, who's still trying to follow those lions with his roof.
I am indeed, Noel, and it's proving to be quite a difficult task. They're going through very dense, very thick bush at the moment, and that's what's making it a little hard to keep up. But I'm intrigued by Noel saying she can hear lions in the distance, because I can tell you now that our Nkuhuma pride and our male lion have not uttered a single peep, and there has been no vocalization from them at all. So I wonder who has been calling, because maybe there is another male lion around. I did have tracks this morning when we followed Nsuku south, when we then found that male leopard Hukamuri at Treehouse Dam. We had tracks for another male coming north. So I wonder if there's not a third Birmingham around. So we had the two, and then this is the third. Oh, they're all drinking. Now I've got to try and get into here so that we can see them drinking. I don't know if we're going to be able to. Try and get you. There we go. That's probably the best view we're going to get for now, unless I can get around, but I don't know if we'll get around in time, so let's just rather use this. Now I apologize about poles and all kinds of other things because, well, we do have the roof on, as I mentioned. It's a pity it's not so open on the other side, because it would have been so nice to have the whole pride kind of lined up around a little water source. It would have been very cool to see. And it looks like they might start to kind of settle a little bit, although I see a number of the females still walking away, so we're still going to be here for a few minutes, and then off they go again. There goes the little one, still bounding, full of energy. It's run and jump on just about everybody and is playing. There we go. See, again, hello little one. So I suppose that's what it's like when you've got older siblings and you're the only one. You're a bit of the kind of naughty child, and you just run around all over the place causing havoc with all the other ones. So Amy, you're wondering, with the little one being damp, will it affect its health? So no, shouldn't really affect its health too much. It's getting nice nutrient-rich milk from its mother. It's feeding. It's got the protection of everybody, so it should actually be okay. The good thing also is that it's going to prevent this little one from getting mange, because when they've got damp fur like that, the mites that cause mange don't populate very well in wet weather, and so you have a situation where they're able to actually kind of stay actually healthier in the wet than they are in very dry conditions. Now, I'm not sure if... Is that Amber Eyes that's here? Yes, hello girl. Long time no see. Where have you been and what have you been up to? Nice to see her though with the pride. So all 5 females are here then, and they are moving around with them, which is good news. When 5 Nkuhuma females are together, they really are a force to be reckoned with, and generally they are able to find a lot of food items and really cause a lot of trouble. So I'm pity any buffalo that is around if all 5 girls are together with the Birmingham boy, because when the Birminghams and the Nkuhumas combine, like I say, buffalo tend not to last very long at all. We tend to see a situation where they, unfortunately, mass murder occurs, which I suppose is not the worst thing. Right, now let's sit here. So Alan, Styx Pride, I haven't heard too many updates. The last time I heard, they were somewhere around Chitwa, and then they went on to Hoffman's and around that area, and then down even towards Little Gari and Chitwa, and then back again to Double M. So I'm not really sure where they are today. I haven't heard any updates about them today or even yesterday, but I'm sure that they are somewhere close by. They normally do hang around those areas, and when it gets dry, I find that the Styx Pride often spends a little bit more time further south. So there is a massive water hole on Mala Mala, very close to this northern boundary, called Clarendon Dam, and I'm not sorry, not Clarendon Dam, White Cloth Dam. That is a big dam there, and they go there a lot, and they used to spend a lot of time around that area and around the Mulawati. So they go there and then they come back and there and back, and so they're probably down that side. We'll just have to see. I'm sure they'll come back though as well, and apparently they're looking good from what I've heard. You know, the adult females are a little older, but the cubs apparently are all looking quite fine. What amazes me though is all this water on my left hand side that they've just drunk out of, that was completely barren, bone dry 3 hours ago, and now look how much water there is. It's absolutely incredible. We had a really good storm today, and so You know, the animals I'm sure will be very happy about that. I know some parts of the Sabi Sands got over 60 millimeters of rain this afternoon, which is really quite something and saying a lot. But there's one that is busy sitting. I'm going to try and stop there so that Senzo doesn't have to deal with the pole too much. But that's one of the sub-adult females that is just sitting over there. Really cool to see how much they've grown, and they're starting to become part of the pride that will probably start hunting. I wouldn't be surprised if these guys are going into hunting mode at some point. They will definitely be watching the adults very carefully, and hopefully soon we'll see them successful in their very own hunt for the first time. Right, now I'm going to try and reposition. Taxes in front of me on this side. I think I'm going to try and just cross over this side and go around and get the rest of the pride on the other side there. That's what I'm going to do. And so while I do that, let's send you back across to James, who's bugging around in the tent.
Scott Dyson found us a very exciting thing to look at, actually. Let's go to the microscope. Now, it is a little moth. And I can't identify the species, but I'm pretty sure that it is part of the family of handmaidens. And I've seen some similar species here, but not exactly the same. It could be something slightly more primitive known as a burnet. Why that's more primitive, I'm not really sure. But it's one of the two. It's a handmaiden or a burnet. And it has got, if it would open its wings, the most spectacular red colours underneath it. While we wait and see if it does open its wings, just have a look around it. It's in a little jar, which it will be removed from as soon as we finish this segment. Those little black spots on the bottom of the jar, or those specks, are the scales that make up the wing. So you've often obviously been sort of swatting at a moth that's flying around your face, or laying on one on your bed, and come up with kind of grubby fingers. It's like a dust that comes off on your fingers. That's those scales that's on your fingers when that happens. Let me just take this out. Oh, well done, Nicola. Our timing is superb. Let's see if we can't find them. Ooh, Scarlett, you ask a question very topical today. You say, have I ever found a snake in the tent? I haven't found a snake in here. I have found a snake in the little technical box outside, a brown house snake. But yesterday, while I was in my room thinking about what to do next, I was about to climb out of my window and go and sit outside. And I looked up, and there above my window is a little sort of hole for some reason with a gauze in it. And sitting there watching me with his tail hanging over one side and his little face hanging over the other, you can see the terror I feel just talking about it, was a snake. But luckily, it wasn't a harmful snake. It was a little spotted bush snake. And I actually felt quite a lot of affection for him sitting there. He looked very sweet, and then he climbed up into the roof and left me alone to carry on with my day. So that is my snake story. Thank you for that, Scarlett. Let's go back across to Steve, who's got Topi.
It's never fun finding snake in your room, but it does happen out in the bush. But what we have here is a bit of testosterone, ladies and gentlemen. These two male topi have been dancing around each other for a little bit, but nothing too aggressive. They're doing a lot of posturing and then displacement by looking in the opposite direction, and then always pretending that they're not interested and then suddenly engaging again. I don't know if you can hear that. There's some lightning in the distance, thunder in the distance. There's a storm that we've been running away from. It seems to be moving across from the west towards the east. We're hoping. It is a big storm. Oh, and there the topi are doing their thing. Marvelous. Marvelous. Look at that power. And if you can hear that, folks. It's about 200 kilograms versus 200 kilograms.